Storm watch weather alert tomorrow and the calendar are signs that we have plenty of winter still to get through.
So far, though, we haven't seen much snow. Tonight, our chief meteorologist, Eric Fisher, and the Storm Watch weather team are looking at what we can expect for the rest of the season.
Well, we have made it to February, more than half the way through winter, so we figured we'd do a little bit of a report card here at this point in the season. You know what's happened so far. The answer is not much when it comes to snowfall. We're tracking toward one of the least snowy winters on record up to this point, but there's still a lot of time on the clock. So we're looking at some factors for the last home stretch of the winter season.
So we look at El Nino or La Nina, and we're looking at the temperatures in the ocean where the warm and cool pools are. This is not a strong El Nino, so one thing I think we can be sure of, it's not going to be a blowtorch winter the rest of the winter.
In fact, El Nino didn't even develop this year, technically speaking, by definition.
It's very, very weak. It's a weak Nino, but there is warm water in the Central Pacific. There's warm water in the Northeastern Pacific. So these are places we look to see for how it's going to affect the jet stream.
Speaking of warming,
In the stratosphere, wow.
Stratosphere, huge warming event, which occurred in the beginning of January, so just to kick off the new year, but it delayed things, and that's usually what we see in terms of that little displacement of the polar vortex. So we're just starting to see the effects now from this, and last year it was a little later event, so that could mean a colder snap here as we head into the next month or so.
You know, there's been more talk as there's more research about the stratosphere and these warming events, and last year's was in mid-February. So remember how warm it was and people were saying, hey, we're free, we're done with winter.
And then boom.
But the effects were March and April, so with an early January split, the effects look more like mid-February into March.
Also last year in March, we also had the Greenland block, which is high pressure that develops over Greenland, and of course that allows for the jet stream to dip south, cold air to sink into New England, and ski lovers love it. Now, there could be the indication if that does redevelop again later in the season, it could be more cold, it could be more snow. It doesn't guarantee it, but it definitely allows for the odds to be higher.
The 4 Easters last March were unbelievable.
4 in a row.
And that really was almost a direct consequence of the stratospheric warming event that took place in February. One thing we're kind of rooting against, if you believe it, is a lack of snowfall here during the end because it's so wet. And the Quabbin Reservoir, which of course big water source, had rises for 4 straight months in the cold season. That had never happened since it was built back in the 40s. And so we've got tons of water out there, a lot of snow in northern New England. Additional snowpack and moisture would not be a good thing heading into March.
That could spell a lot of spring flooding that we'll have to keep an eye out for.
It's all about the precise storm track going forward, whether it's a coastal hugger or that blocking forces the storms farther south.
Yeah, and northern New England has seen one of their snowiest winters on record while we've been sitting here just a couple hundred miles away. It's been a different story.
Head north, go skiing.
So we think the best window for snow potential is mid-February to mid-March, and this year's spring, I think the odds are heightened. It will actually arrive on time, and it won't be snowing on the marathon course like what we had last April.
Not to put too fine a point on it, but that sounds like pretty good news. We don't have a crazy snowy end of the winter, and people who want to ski are happy.
Yeah, pretty blockbuster free, probably.
Well, you know, you could always spin up one right, but I'm feeling it's going to be very seasonable down the home stretch. Still some snow chances, but it's not going to be one of these epic runs. The general theory is that seasons that can't get their act together through this late in the season tend to not get off the mat very